1 week season.
What's up, OWS fans? Xandermere here with another MLB Best Ball Draft. Just starting this one. It is, what are we, March 3rd. I have last pick. What's interesting, I feel like I get a lot of like first picks and last picks. Like my Ohtani exposure is something like 14 or 15%. And I have a lot of last picks, at least lately. So that's fine. We'll see how this goes. We got a little bit of time before our first pick arrives. The news today out of the baseball world is Jurickson Profar has once again been suspended for PEDs for the entire season. He was suspended just last year, and apparently that went so well for him that he decided to do it again. So congratulations, Jurickson Profar. In other news for me, this was the first time a player has gotten hurt or suspended or otherwise, out. That wasn't a player I was overweight on. So hooray. Like I was overweight on Pablo Lopez. I was overweight on Spencer Schwellenbach. I was overweight in Hurston Waldrop. So it's, I don't wish anyone ill, obviously, but it's kind of nice not to have a situation like this bite me in the ass. So hooray, because I was a little underweight. Profar didn't actually have very much at all, really. So Mr. Profar is done. Apparently, the Players Association is appealing, so they must think there's something going on there that is odd to them. But I don't know. I don't know enough details. I don't know if there are enough details about why that's happening for us to really formulate an opinion. I think in all likelihood, Profar is donezo. But if you have some kind of insight and you want to draft Profar in the last round, have at it. Let's see. We have 5 picks away. So last pick is rough, especially since Corbin Carroll got hurt, because there just aren't a lot of like the top tier outfielders are all gone, right? Like Tatis is gone, and there's kind of a tier gap to me between like Tatis and then you go down to like Rooker, Jordan Alvarez, Devers, all fine plays, but like to me there's a gap between like Julio Rodriguez, Tatis, Kyle Tucker, that group, and the second group of Rick Rooker, Jordan, Devers. So there's a bit of a gap there. Carroll is I'm fine picking up Carroll at the turn. It's a little risky with the hamate bone injury, but I wouldn't personally draft him as early as 9. So I'm going to draft. I'm going to get an infielder. There's a couple options. You can play it cute here, and I'll kind of actually. No, but I'm gonna draft straight up. There's a kind of a cute strategy you could do here, which is going for like Rooker plus Nick Kurtz, and I think that's interesting because they just don't pair together very often, given their ADPs. And if you want to build that A's stack. Starting with Rooker and Kurtz is a really interesting way to do it because they're not highly owned together. Wow, Roman Anthony 14th. That is wild. Anyway, but I guess I got that strategy. Like that guy's, if maybe he's a veteran drafter, he's intentionally trying to diversify. He's high on Anthony and he wants to draft him back there, or because you're not going to pair him with someone like Jordan otherwise. Is his thought maybe. Could be, although you can often get Jordan later and pair him with Anthony. So I don't know. It's a bit of an odd pick there. Anyway, though, that Rooker Kurt strategy is one I've done a few times because I think it's really interesting. Because I think that you can use that to get that pairing, which is so unusual. And there's a lot of upside in that A's team, right? The A's are going to score a lot of runs. They're in that AAA ballpark, so I think that's actually a really interesting strategy. And I have a few teams like that. So if you're at the turn, think about unusual pairings, and that's worth thinking about always in the first few rounds. One of the things I say is I don't want to make huge stands in the first few rounds about like drafting none of this player or tons of that player because all those players have lots of ceiling. But I do think it's interesting to think about pairings and based on ADP, what pairings are common and what pairings are rare. I think that's a way you can really kind of take advantage of ADP a little bit. Wow, Jalen Duran has been falling a lot, but he just went 20th. I don't think I've seen him go 20th all year. And he's really been trending downwards in ADP because people are concerned he sits versus left-handed pitching. I'm less concerned about that personally. He actually hit a home run off a left-handed pitcher this week in spring training. Spring training, right? But like we care about is not necessarily his performance against lefties. What we care about is that he gets at bats against lefties. So we hope he hits well enough to get at bats. So if he becomes a platoon player, that's really bad. And so like things like hitting a home run off a lefty in spring training helps him, earn at bats. That's what we want. Wyatt Langford early. This is a bummer of a draft of the last pick because a guy like Churio, who I'm really high on, just went 26th. Gunnar went 23rd. Some of these early picks meant guys like Nick Kurtz, 22nd, a little bit late for him. If I had an early pick, I could have taken advantage of that. But by the time it gets back around to me, all those guys are drafted. So bummer for me. What you can imagine here, I'm looking at, I picked 36, 37. Tyler Soderstrom fits Brent Rooker perfectly. In fact, to the point where I am actually, on some of my teams, I'm trying to avoid that pairing because I have so much of it. Like, such a large percentage of my Rooker rosters have Soderstrom on them that there's a scenario where Rooker has a really good season, Soderstrom doesn't, or Soderstrom gets hurt, and then it's the Rooker plus someone else that's the non-stacking rosters who are doing the wrong thing in drafts who actually have the edge because of just how the season plays out. So, that Harper went 30th. Some really interesting drafts going on so far. Oh, he wanted maybe get someone to get him Schwarber, I guess, and he thought he wouldn't come back around, which he probably won't. So okay, fair. Fair stacking on that Harper pick. Anyway, I am intentionally trying to build some rosters that have Rooker that don't have Soderstrom because of how many rosters I have with that pairing. I'm going to do that pairing in this draft, assuming that Soderstrom doesn't get picked right here, which he probably won't. Because I think, it serves a good illustration of draft purposes, and it's strong. I have no issue with it. It's just that I have so much of it that I'm trying to get away a little bit. So I'm going to go Soderstrom, and then I'm going to go Jackson Merrill, who I'm really, really high on. I've got him ranked 24th, well ahead of ADP. Suzuki would be another totally viable pick there as well. Even Bellinger would be viable, or Olsen. Any of those picks would be totally viable from my standpoint. I probably wouldn't want a lot of Olsen there. Like if I were to do this draft 100 times, I'd want very little Olsen because I already have Ramirez as an infielder. And I don't generally like to start with 2 infielders, 2 outfielders. I generally tend to lean outfield heavy. So I'd probably, if I did this draft 100 times and I had those choices, I'd probably do like 5% of the time I'd pick Olsen. Then lots of Merrill, lots of Suzuki, a little less Bellinger, maybe a couple weird ones here or there. I wonder, though, live drafts get interesting, and they get interesting closer to draft season, and they get interesting at prime draft times because that's when you get the more casual players drafting. See, this guy's actually going, like he gets Trey Turner. So he's going also ahead of ADP. So he's going like full Phillies. I admire the correlation. I'm personally not high on Trey Turner, but this guy's committed to his stack and he's going for correlation. And, sometimes to build your correlation, you build your stacks, you have to kind of sometimes ignore ADP in order to get the players you need to build the roster you want. You kind of have to ignore ADP at times. And so I actually like that strategy, right? I'm not high on Turner personally, but I like the strategy of drafting, out of order of ADP to build pairings that are A, unusual, and B, stacked, but correlated. Because of ADP, you're not going to see a lot of rosters that have Schwarber, Harper, and Turner. You have to reach for that roster to make it happen. And so you're already not going to see a lot, and they're correlated well. So if one or two of those guys has a big season, that boosts the other ones or boosts the host of the team. I'm curious if this guy's going to go off the board late and get some like a Bryson Stott or Alec Boehm late round. All right, sorry for the pause. I had to sneeze. I decided to mute and not subject you to that. Okay, 9 picks away. We have pick 60, 61. So Lawrence Butler is obviously a target of mine, right? Like very, very obvious target for me, being another A. These guys are probably all gone. NATO might be there. Stowers is a target of mine here. His ADP had been skyrocketing up, and then he got a slight hamstring injury, and his ADP is tanked. And I'm happy to take advantage of that because it doesn't seem likely that the hamstring injury is going to impact his season at all. So I'm happy to take advantage of that. I could also get a pitcher here at the the turn. I could get like someone like a Brian Wu, Logan Webb, Hunter Brown, and we'll see who makes it. But one of those guys is going to be there. When I sort by ADP, I'm drafting here. I don't think I've really talked about my hate for Geraldo Perdomo at this draft price on one of our draft streams, but my God, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I am way out of it. But Geraldo Perdomo, and I had him on some rosters last year that did well. In fact, both my finals rosters had him. And so, grateful to him for the amazing season. But my God, I just don't see it. He's got great plate discipline, and that's about it. His speed's not great. And he stole what, 27 bases? Like, that's good. It's all right, but it's not awesome. He racked up counting stats somehow. But he had 20 home runs. Like, one, 20 home runs is not a huge number. Two, look at his home run count before, and his batted ball data does not support that home run rate. Like, he got very, very lucky to get 20 home runs. And so if you cut him down to like 10 home runs, that projection dips a lot. So I don't know. Like, maybe I'm wrong and I'm the one not seeing it, and he's really like the next elite hitter, and he's going to be a first-round pick next year. But the advanced stats don't support it, so I just don't buy it. Okay. Oh, that's weird. My rankings didn't update. I saw Profar, who is, of course, dead. We're going to get Butler. I know that. So Butler's queued, so I can just leave him there and think. So this is ADP, right? Brian Wu, Cole Reagans. Pitcher is viable here. Kyle Stowers is viable. I have lots of Stowers, so I don't mind skipping him. I think I'm going to go pitcher. I think. Yeah, we'll go pitcher. Stowers also, like, I don't mind drafting him at 60 because I'm ranked 54th, so it's later than my ranking. But when his ADP drops a lot, like, I feel like there's other drafts I can get him in the mid-60s, which is better value. So I'd rather get a guy who's harder to get at this pick. And so I think I'm going to go Wu. And again, this is similar. Like, I have Wu and Gilbert ranked right next to each other. Gilbert's slightly ahead. And so you might say, why don't I draft Gilbert there when I have him ranked ahead of Wu? One is exposure. I know that Gilbert is I know I have more Gilbert than Wu overall. And two is ADP, where, like, if I was drafting in the mid 60s, like if I had picked 65, Wu's probably gone, and I would happily take Gilbert. When they're both available, I think that, like, Wu has a lower ADP. He's a little harder to get. And so, like, I'd rather get the guy where I'm getting a little bit more ADP value in addition to rank value. So when I think about drafting in my ranks versus ADP, like, ideally, in an ideal world, I would get value on my ranks where I'm drafting every player after where I have them ranked, and I would get value on ADP where I'm drafting them after where their ADP is. Like, that would be my dream scenario. Now, that's not going to happen very often, but I want to kind of get with. I'm going to note Jock Caglianone. My God, I mean, I was getting him like after pick 100 just like a week ago, and he has skyrocketed up the rankings. I like him, but man, that's like, it's aggressive where he's being drafted. Like, pick 60, that's really aggressive. I've him ranked currently 92nd. Looking good in spring. I don't tend to put a lot of weight in spring stats when I adjust rankings. I do look at things like there's some StatCast data we can get, like things like exit velocity that are sticky, that are not like small sample size. Like, if you hit the ball hard, you hit the ball hard. Bat speed is sticky. I also look at like opportunity, right? Like, is a guy going to be on the field a lot? Is he going to get a lot of at bats? That's something we can learn from spring training. So, like, Connor Griffin, I re-ranked and moved way up because it looks highly likely that he's going to break camp with the team. Whereas a few weeks ago, based on the Pirates' history, didn't necessarily seem that likely he'd break camp with the team. Now, there's still a scenario where they've reached out to him for extension offers. If they sign him to an actual contract, then there's no need to manage his service time, and so they keep him up. If they don't come to an agreement, then maybe they send him down, and then you say, like, almost as like a punishment to say, hey, you should have come to an agreement with us. Now you're not going to get this full year of service time, and you're going to have to wait a full year for arbitration and put him in a Super 2 status. So maybe that happens with Griffin, but, like, those are the kind of things I adjust rankings for when I think at opportunities. Stephen Kwan at 72nd. What is going? That's a weird one. There's not a lot of outfield left, though, and I get it because, like, Profar's done. This is the Ohtani drafter, and so he has two pitchers. He only had three outfielders. He clearly needed outfield there. Profar's gone. Michael Harris is risky based on his profile, and then you get into Lewis Robert, Joe Adell, and Stephen Kwan, who are all kind of ADP in the low to mid 80s there. So I guess I get it. This draft has a lot of guys going well away from normal ADP, which is interesting. There goes Perdomo. He went after ADP by a fair bit, 74th. His ADP is like 62. See, Stowers went 67th, which he wouldn't have done a week ago. He would have been like 60th or so, high 50s. So I'm kind of fine not getting him here on this team because there's other teams I'm drafting where I can get him in the mid 60s. Caglianone, man, if this is where he's going, I might just have to be happy with the amount I have already where I got him later because, like, yikes, I don't know if I can pay a 6th round cost for him. When I can get Stowers, who I know is really, really good, or Brian Reynolds, who's like really solid, all around good. Trout, who's elite if healthy. Like, I like Caglianone, but that's an aggressive draft price. We'll have to see if that was just one random guy making that pick, or if it's really like his ADP has been pushing up. So I'll have to see how that plays out. Okay, we're 7 picks away, so I can start to look at my picks. Profar, like, I'm annoyed that my rankings didn't update. I think it's because like I updated the rankings as I was already in queue, and so the rankings already loaded. And I don't think there's a way to reload them that I'm aware of. So Profar just gonna sit there looking ugly at me the whole draft. Maybe someone will time out and take him by accident. What are we looking at here, guys? We are coming up on pick 84, 85. So by ADP, all these guys look valuable based on ADP. And you can also see I have like Rice. All these guys I have ranked ahead, except for Adames. So they're all viable picks there. There's no real stacking option here, right? The next athletic that's viable is what's his name? Shea Langelier. How the catcher? How do you pronounce his name? Padres. Padres are not a very stackable team, right? You've got the big 3 guys, and you got like Laureano late, Castellanos, Bogarts. Like these guys are for floor guys more than ceiling guys to me. So Padres should have to stack. Cleveland, Quan would have been pick. Look at that ADP 84.8. I have pick 84. Quan would have been a perfect pick for my roster. But since I have Ramirez, maybe I can think about getting De La Torre later and say, like, okay, I don't need other outfielders early. I'll plan on getting De La Torre later. Because there isn't an outfielder I really want. Adele would be the one I would have considered taking here. My other outfielders I've ranked in like the 90s. So like my rank, it looks like I'm getting an infielder, and it's not a stacked one. So with that, if I'm not stacking, I'm just going to take my highest rank infielder. And then what else? I'm waiting on I'm hoping like Cruz comes back around to me. So I could get a pitcher here. And I could get like a Fried or I could go another infielder with like an Abrams, which is fine, or a Ben Rice. Rice not very stackable. Abrams has some stackability later, a little bit. I'm going to go Fried, I think. This is a bit of a balanced roster for me. Normally, I didn't want to force outfield. Normally, I would have had 5 outfielders by now, but I didn't want to force one ahead of my rankings, ahead of ADP, to get one that last round. So I'm fine kind of waiting a little bit. I also know that since I have Cleveland going as a Cleveland player, that De La Torre is there as a later round outfielder. But keep in mind, if I'm targeting De La Torre later, then I also know that that's a round that I often take a pitcher. And so that means I need to take pitchers in different rounds, right? If I'm planning De La Torre that round and not a pitcher, well, I need to find a round to take a pitcher and not an outfielder. So that's kind of what also pushed me toward Fried a little bit. So let's see. If I go Cleveland, De La Torre, Mazzardo are viable picks. Cubs, I also know there's some mid-range Cub infielders, right? Bush, Swanson, and Horner. Athletics, I've got like I don't know how to pronounce that. And Jacob Wilson. Jeff McNeil is even viable in an A's stack as a late round pick because like he's not only a power guy, but like everyone's a power guy in that ballpark. So viable. So there's my existing stacks. What you see is 7 infielders, 1 outfielder. So clearly I need another outfielder outside of where the teams I'm currently drafting. And so when I go look at outfielders, I know that I'm going to come back at pick 110. That's also where I stop caring so much about ADP and I pick the guys I like. So I could get Dalton Varsho if I look at ADP. Dalton Varsho, Trent Grisham, Dylan Cruz, TJ Friedel, Rafaela. Those are kind of the guys I'd put in that pile. If I'd gotten what's his name, Abrams, like Cruz would be a priority for me there. And if he got picked early, then I'd consider Lyle. But I didn't take Abrams. So Varsho opens up a couple other infield options in Okamoto, the new guy, the new Japanese player, and Barger later. Grisham doesn't open really anything else up for me stacking wise. I mean, like at that Yankees stack at that point is mostly done, and you're looking at like, Stanton, but I don't need their outfielder, and there's no other infielders besides like McMahon. So that's not exciting from a stacking perspective. Friedel opens up a lot of reds, and a lot of the reds are very infield heavy. right? The only viable Reds outfielder to me is Friedel himself. And then if you want to get really risky, I don't mind a little bit of Will Benson exposure. But really not a lot of Reds in outfield. So given that I know I want De La Tour, Friedel's a viable option because I want someone that I don't need another outfielder slot to stack, right? So Friedel stacks with infield slots. So that's viable. What else? Who are the other guys I was looking at? Let me get back to my outfield slot. Cruz really only has like the Washington does not have a lot of guys. Like I'm not dipping into like the Luis Garcia, Brady House. Like I just don't think that offense is good enough to support those kind of like fringe players. And then what else? Rafaela. Boston has another offense that has some infielders. You got Abreu as an outfielder. You've also got Story, Contreras, and Durbin. So like those are the kind of ones I want. Like I want like a Friedel or a Boston stack. What am I going to do now? Let's see. So Bush went. Oh, Bush went. It was there. That's a shame. He would have been nice to stack. So no one here I'm going to stack. If you look at their ADPs, they're too late. I'm going to go. Oh man, it's tough to pass up on guys that I'm so ranked over the field on. I'm just thinking here. Did Friedel go? I didn't see. Running out of time. No, he didn't go. Not as high on Friedel as some others, but man, this is tempting. I'm going to go Rafaela. So the reason I made those picks, I have a lot of infielders in my queue. But I'm okay getting Yandy Diaz because like these infielders are fine. I think Yandy Diaz is just a guy that I think is consistently undervalued because it's hard to stack Rays. He's not an exciting player, but like those are really robust scores from a guy in this pick range. You wouldn't be unhappy getting 1,072 or 1,102. You'd be thrilled getting into 1,300s with a pick with your pick 108. Those would be awesome picks. That'd be an awesome pick. So I think Diaz is just underrated, generally speaking, and so I'm happy to get him. And I took Rafaela. I have a lot of Cruz, as you might imagine, right? Look how far ahead of ADP I am on Cruz's ranking. So I have a lot of Cruz, and I think he's a great pick. I've been trying intentionally to stay a little bit more away from him because of how much I have. And what I know is if I took Cruz, he would be a naked pick because I'm not going to get Lyle, and I'm not going to go into these like infielders. Whereas Rafaela, if I go to Boston, I can consider Story and Contreras and Durbin as stacking partners. So it adds more infield to my stacking partner options. And I could even consider Abreu, right? And then Rays, I have not a lot of stacking options, but like Jonathan Aranda, I think is a really good late round pick. So, I'm happy. Yandy Diaz can be solo and that's fine. Or if I end up getting Aranda to pair him, that's fine too. Happy with that. So either way, I feel good about Rafaela and the stacking partners he opens up. I also think Rafael himself has some upside because he batted in the bottom of the order a lot last year, but I think that he's a better hitter than that. And I think that he'll have a chance to bat higher up in the order this year. If you look at the Red Sox, let's see, Boston Red Sox projected lineup. Let's see, Fangraphs does these. If we go look at Fangraphs, so they're going to project that they haven't projected batting 7th, which is better than 9th. You're going to have Anthony leading off. Duran's going to be in there against righties for sure. Maybe lefties a little shaky. Contreras is probably the cleanup hitter. Abreu is probably the 5-hole hitter against righties, maybe second. Story's up there, but like Story is risky. Story had several down years and one blow up season last year, but like maybe he doesn't hit as well. Duran potentially gets platooned, right? Abreu looked really good against righties last year, but did not look as good against lefties. Caleb Durbin is not like some elite hitter. So there's room for Rafaela if he hits well, to move up in the order and become a more prominent part of the offense. So there's a possibility that could play out that way. And I don't know if it will, but I do know there's a possibility, and I bet on upside. And the point is not to say it's going to happen. The point is to say there is some hidden upside in Rafaela if he moves up from the bottom third of the order to the top third. That would boost him significantly, right? Every spot in the order is worth roughly half a plate appearance per game. So if he goes from like 7 to 2, that's an extra 0.1 plate appearances per game per position in the order on average. So that would be 5 positions. If you go from 7 to 2, that would be 5 positions. 5 plate 0.5 plate appearances per game on average. That's an extra 80 plate appearances over the course of the season. That's a lot. So the point is not to say that'll happen. The point is to say if it does happen, that it could, and if it does, like you're in a position to benefit from it. So I already have 3 A's. I really want Wilson, but I don't have to take him this round. I can probably count on getting him back at pick the next round, pick 156, 157, with his ADP 162. Like, it's not guaranteed, but odds are I can get him there, and I don't like him enough to draft him this early. One of the downsides of drafting on the turns is like you don't draft as often, so it's harder to build stacks because it's harder to predict who's going to come back to you. If I want Nico Horner, I've got to draft him now. Did Dansby go? Dansby Swanson went. So if I want a stacking partner to go with Bregman, it's got to be now or never because Horner's going to go. Abreu, I'm fine passing on. Contreras, maybe, or pitching. So I'm going to I want Horner, so I'm going to leave my queue like that while I look at pitching. Blake Snell, I probably want to bump farther back even than he is right now because the injury stuff. Like I haven't really moved him since the unlikely to be ready by opener news came out. But any of these pitchers, right? Woodruff, Schlittler, Bibby, Pepio, Chandler, Suarez, or less so Chandler and Suarez. Any of these pitchers are totally viable targets for me. So I'm looking at where I have the most of and where their rankings in ADP are, and I think I'm gonna go Bibby. Yeah, I'm gonna go Bibby. I have a lot of all those guys actually, but I think I have the most of Woodruff and Schlittler based on their rankings. You can imagine that similar ADPs. I'm gonna have the most of the higher ranked guys. I'm gonna make a note to drop Snell more. So I'm happy getting another pitcher there. It means I miss on Contreras probably. Maybe he makes it to me. That means no real Boston stack, but that's fine. I did add, a secondary Chicago correlation, so I'd have 6 correlated hitters. If you watch my stuff, you'll know that my target is roughly 10, or well, 8 to 10 correlated hitters per roster is what I go for. I like to get 10. That's my goal. I don't always make it to 10, but that's kind of my target. So I've got 6, right? Bregman and Horner is, I have 5. Bregman and Horner is 2, and then Rooker, Soderstrom, Butler is 3. So that's 5. I was counting Wilson already, and I have not, of course, drafted him yet. Now the trick, though, is I really want De La Tour, which I do. My next picks, I pick 80, 180, 181. His ADP is 180. So, like, if I really want him, I probably need to draft him here because he might be gone. And the question is, do I want him enough? I look at the ADPs of the guys I have. Assuming Contreras is gone, the guys I'm most interested in are Wilson and De La Tour. Because De La Tour fills up my infield. De La Tour fills up my outfield, and Wilson fills up my biggest stack. So those are the guys I'm most interested in, assuming that Contreras is gone. If Contreras is there, I'll take him because he's such a good value at pick 156. I think he's a great value, and he stacks with Rafaela, so I'm fine going Contreras if he's there. But otherwise, I'm happy taking Wilson and De La Tour. The only other thing is I could take a pitcher. If I look at pitching, like where I have guys ranked, how did Lodolo go already? Lodolo is another guy I like a lot who's been 136. His ADP's been climbing a lot, but his ADP is still 151. It was like 160 something when I started drafting. Anyway, I was going to see if he was there because he's a pitcher I might consider drafting my next pick there with these 156, 157. If one of these guys like Woodruff, Suarez, Chandler. If Woodruff or Suarez are still there at my next pick, I'd be really tempted to get one of them. As heavy as I am on them already, I just think that's really good value at pick 156, 157. They probably don't make it back to me. I'm still 9 picks out. We're really starting to see the ADPs shift a lot. So Jack Flaherty's skyrocketed. Emmett Sheehan has gone way. I was drafting him in the last round when I started drafting, and now he's ADP 172. He is really good. And his inning, okay, so there goes Contreras, and his innings look secure. It's Sheehan again. His innings look secure with Snell likely to start on the IL. So Yeah, some of these guys we're really seeing. Sal Stewart's another guy on the Reds. ADP. I was drafting him after pick 200 when I started drafting. Now ADP 179. It's like we're really seeing a lot of these guys surge upwards in ADP, and that's just the nature of the draft season, right? So someone asked me in Discord, is it better to draft early or late? And my answer is because there's benefits to both. If you draft early, you get a much less efficient ADP market, but you also have to take the risk of like I've drafted guys that get hurt. There goes Woodruff. I was hoping he might make it. He's getting close. But yeah, if you draft early, you might get guys that get hurt and you lose out because you draft a guy and he gets injured, and that sucks. But if you draft late, you're facing a much more efficient ADP market. I have a bunch of last round Emmett Sheehan. I have a bunch of last round Sal Stewart. Those are really efficient picks. I have a bunch of like 7th and 8th round Kyle Stowers. So those are the kind of picks I like, right? I like taking the risk because I feel that I'm good at sorting out where guys should be or where guys are likely to be drafted later. Okay, this is a trick now. Suarez is there. I already have 3 good pitchers, and I kind of don't want to deviate from my hitter plan. So let me pick these picks and I'll talk through it. So I have the hitter plan kind of dialed in. And if you look at outfield, one of the things we know is there aren't a lot of outfielders left. And one of the things we also know is of those outfielders that are left, none of them really stack with guys I have. Like Laureano does, but his ADP's climbed all the way up. He was like 170, 180. Now he's 160. And so he's, he's going to be gone before my next pick, excuse me. He's going to be gone. So he would stack with Merrill. There's really not a lot of other outfielders that stack with guys I have. And so I could get a solo outfielder by himself, especially this late. I could get I could make a new stack. Like I could get go for St. Louis Cardinals, right? That's one of my favorite late round stacks. I could get like Newt Barr or Jordan Walker as the outfielder, and then get like Ivan Herrera and Alec Burleson, something like that as infielders. So I could do that, totally viable. But I kind of had a plan for this one, and that plan was I wanted to make some bigger stacks, right? I want to make that big A stack. We have 3 early round A's. Like based on where your stacks are drafted and the total draft capital you have allocated to them, that tells you how important it is that they hit. So A's represented, 3 of my first 6 picks. If the A's flop, this team is dead. If the A's smash, 3 hitters are already going to be doing well, one expects, based on, I have 3 of them. And so like getting Wilson makes so much sense in this roster because if all these 3 guys are outperforming, it makes it more likely Wilson's outperforming too. So it became more important to me to get Wilson. And then I also wanted De La Torre because that was kind of my plan originally, right? And like, it's not that I can't deviate from it, but again, it's like I don't have a lot of other outfield options that that stack with guys I already have. And so I didn't want to create a new stack. And so I wanted to go with the stack I already had. So now if we count, I have 4 A's, 2 Cubs, 2 Guardians. And so now I'm at 8 correlated hitters out of my 11 hitters. And so I want at least one more hitter that stacks with someone I have, one of these guys, because that creates, that'll get me to 10 correlated hitters. Or I could do 2. I could also do 2, right? And get me even more correlated hitters. So viable. But and I need pitching. And so the good news is these guys are all drafted super late. In fact, Durbin and McNeil are rarely drafted at all. Aranda is often not drafted. When he's drafted, it's like 20th round. So now it tells me I can prioritize pitching, right? I can fill out my pitching. So pick 180, 181. So Rodon, Leiter. I'm terrible at name pronunciation. Did Leiter get picked? 172. Oh, Matt McClain. I bumped Matt McClain. I really like this year. He's bumped up. This guy is a weird drafter in that he's made really weird draft choices, like just by ADP, but he's not building any correlation. Like does he have any? Am I not seeing it? He has 10 uncorrelated hitters. No, I'm sorry. Frelick and Terang. 8 uncorrelated hitters, 1 pair. That's like hard to do. That's like legitimately hard to do unless you're trying. That's a really weird roster. But anyway, McClain looks awesome. I am a McClain fan. I'm a McClain stan. Shane McClanahan's another guy I want to start seeing his ADP go up because he just pitched. I think he pitched 2 scoreless innings today, I want to say. First time back on the mound in a while. He's a guy that we knew if he looks healthy, his ADP is going to go up. Yeah, 2 scoreless innings. And so 2 scoreless innings looks good. His fastball velocity was down a lot. But like his average fastball velocity was down a lot, but his peak velocity still got up there today. So let's see, where's my this big gap in pitching? Because I just don't like these guys. I'm going to take Rasmussen. And I'm going to take, I need some of these guys might need to bump up a little bit more. Some of these guys' ADP is changing significantly. Chris Buick. A lot of these late round pitchers their ADP is swinging a lot. So McClanahan showed up with like a 94 mile an hour fastball down from 97, but he did throw like a 96 point something at some point. So maybe he's good. The thing I worry with McClanahan is that he gets the Drew Rasmussen treatment from last year, and they like make him a 5 and dive pitcher. I like McClanahan for the talent, but on this format, you have to be able to rack up quality starts to rack up points. And so if you can't rack up quality starts, it's really hard to get the points. So I worry about that. I gotta do a new ranking adjustment. So we have 5 pitchers. I think I can just do 2 pitchers again my next round. The challenge is that a lot of the pitchers who I really loved finishing my roster out with are guys like Rasmussen, McClanahan, Sheehan, Painter, Horton. A lot of those guys are starting to go earlier. Maybe that's some of you guys doing it. I don't know. But I'm definitely seeing a lot of those guys going earlier. And so I can't like wait till the last round of my draft to get them, which is a bit of a shame. If Weathers stays healthy, he is going to crush. His innings, I mean, look at his innings counts the last few years, right? That's if he stays healthy has been always the challenge for him this career. He's looked really good. I'm like Bryce Miller is going to be really good this year. He was pumping out like 97, 98 mile an hour fastballs his first appearance. Cade Horton's interesting. There's a lot. I mean, still a lot of interesting late round pitchers, but several of my favorites have surged upwards in ADP, which is a shame. But nothing good lasts forever. So I want to finish my pitching this round. And then because these guys, like if I get Aranda, I'm happy with that. If I don't get Aranda, I don't care. Aranda's not a big priority for me. He would pair with somebody, that's cool, but I don't need it. So I have other, Durbin and McNeil really don't get drafted at all. I feel like I can be pretty confident those guys will be there. And if not, it's not the end of the world either. So whatever. So because of that, like if I'm counting on those guys as my last infielders, then I feel like I can prioritize finishing out the pitchers with the late run guys I want the most. I really want Bailey Ober to be good. I wish he was good. This is funny. Bailey Ober, strong velocity early in camp. His velocity sat around 90, 91. Like, cool. That's great. Last year he was throwing 90 mile an hour fastballs. He got crushed. His velocity dipped quite a bit last year, and it's sort of hard to. He's never a big velocity guy, but like when it dips down to like 90, like it's hard to be successful in today's MLB with a 90 mile an hour fastball. The guys who can do that are few and far between. Thought Bailey Ober was a really good pitcher, like good, not just thrower, like a good pitcher. And I want him to be successful because I'm a fan of his. What else we got? Any other guys I'm not seeing? Merrill Kelly was really high in the league, 18 quality starts last year. Doesn't quite strike out enough guys, but he's like a solid back end starter. He's viable. Jose Soriano showed a lot of skills last year and not a lot of, not quite the results for it, but but again, you want more strikeouts, especially the guy throws as hard as he does. Oh, there went Miller. Okay, so I have 5 pitchers who all look like pretty good bets for good innings, all healthy. I'm going to get Ryan Weathers, who is not a bet for for a lot of innings, but is likely a bet for good innings. If if you get the innings, they're going to be quality innings. So I'm going to get him, and then I need to tweak some of my late round stuff here. I haven't come back to this for a while. I think I'll get Painter or Snelling. I'll get Painter. Painter and Snelling, both guys. Like Painter is probably in the rotation. Snelling should be, but like I don't know. I don't know if he will be. I think he should be. Making some notes about who I need to drop. A couple guys I need to move down. Snelling is really, or could be really good. He's a really exciting pitcher. It's not clear if he'll open the season in the rotation, but if you want a late round like flyer pick who has a lot of upside, if he ends up in the rotation, Snelling is a good one. Now we're going to finish out with a couple more infielders. So if you look here, like, McNeil, this is the kind of infielder who's not even drafted very often. And normally he's the kind of player I avoid because he's like more floor than ceiling. But when I already have 4 A's, it's like, okay, if the A's are hitting and smashing, that creates a lot more run and RBI opportunities for McNeil, for everyone on the A's. And so that boosts his floor and ceiling. And if the A's aren't hitting, this roster is done for anyway because it has 4 A's hitters out of 13 hitters it's going to have. So I'm committed to the A's, right? Whenever you have a big commitment like that, it makes sense to scroll a little farther down and look at the guys who you wouldn't normally consider. Because again, if the A's score a ton of runs, that boosts McNeil. It boosts his run and RBI opportunities, which boosts his overall scoring opportunities, right? His overall point scoring. Less so with like Aranda and Durbin. They're more better individual players that create a stack for me, but not like a big one. So I kind of take it or leave it, right? Like those guys are fine. I could take or leave them. They're reasonable plays. I like them, but I don't love them. McNeil's actually the one that I think fits this roster the best. And also, like, it's good for every roster to have, a guy that isn't drafted in every draft, because like scrolling down is what wins, over time. I mean, every year there's guys who aren't drafted who do all this. Baseball is such a wild sport, such a high variance sport. So it's really important to like look down. Like you actually see some guys doing that here. Like Andrew Vaughn's a guy I'm really high on, and maybe this Rhoda Shannon person's one of our subscribers. I don't know, because I've been seeing Andrew Vaughn get drafted a little more highly lately. Jake Berger is another guy that I've been drafting in my Texas stacks, and so this guy has look, he went Wyatt Langford, and then he got Jake Berger and Evan Carter. So that's actually pretty smart correlation. Like that's a good correlation strategy. I like that. Let's look at this guy's roster. It's a pretty good roster. He's got, Friedel and Sal Stewart. He's got Manzardo and Kwan. This guy took Kwan really early. So it's a good roster. It's a good correlation on that roster. Who's the guy? Here's our Philly roster. So he got Adolis Garcia. And that looks like it. And it looks like his hitters are done. So he didn't get, I was wondering if he was going to get somebody like an Alec Boehm or a Bryson Stott, and he didn't, which is, totally fine. He ended up going for, where did he go? Oh my God, where's this guy? I'm going to find him after the draft. He made a really interesting roster, but I think he's heavy on, heavy on Philly, and that's kind of it. Owen Casey's another good, like, scroll down pick. In our draft that I did with Laredo, who was it? Where's Owen Casey? There's some draft I saw he got drafted. Was it Laredo's? No, it was Laredo's draft. Laredo picked him to go Stowers. Same thing, right? Stowers and late Augustine Ramirez, who I love. Casey, who I think is fine, is a fine late round pick. This is that same guy. Now I notice the Philly players. So looks like he has Philly and Miami. This guy drafted Weatherholt, a guy I love and I'm high on and have high in my rankings. Okay, we're going to get Jeff McNeil. And then we're going to get, I have a lot of Aranda, so I'm going to get Durbin in this roster because I have a lot more Aranda. So that finishes my roster. Hooray. I want to stick around and look at a couple of rosters here. Because I think it's worth looking at what some other people are doing and seeing how they're doing it. So I have to wait through the rest of this round. So hang tight. You see Sean Mania is a guy not drafted often. Reed Detmers, I think, is a good late round pick. Excuse me. The challenge is that the way that Underdog works is if you're looking at another roster, then whenever that someone makes a pick, it bounces, like the viewpoint bounces off of that roster back to yours, which is deeply annoying. So I have to wait forever to finish picking before I can go start looking at other rosters without it bouncing around. Max Meyer, Logan Henderson, I love as a late round pick. Max Meyer's an interesting late round pick. He was doing well last year before he got hurt. This is a fragile pitching staff. That's our Philly guy. This is a weird pitching staff that he's got. So Skubal is obviously an ace. Luzardo, Kirby, fine pitchers. Zach Wheeler currently hurt, coming back from an injury that has not had a great success rate. So again, if he comes back and is healthy, awesome. Lots of upside in that pick, but lots of risk. Bailey Ober was god-awful last year. Max Meyer was hurt last year and has just not thrown a lot of career innings. So he's not getting up to Max Meyer's not getting to 150 innings. So talented. This roster, this pitching staff is super risky. There's really only 3 guys you can count on this roster, right? Like Skubal, Luzardo, and Kirby. Just put a lot of risk in the back 3 and then only took 6 pitchers. For me personally, if I'm only going to take 6 pitchers, I want to make sure those are all 6 really good pitchers. Because he went I would have probably skipped out on Casey or Wallner, and gotten a 7th pitcher on this roster. I do wonder if this guy's an OWS sub because high on Keatshaw and Wallner. Look where he picked Keatshaw and Wallner, who I love and talk about a lot. He picked Stowers. He picked Augustine Ramirez. These are all picks I'm really high on. But the roster, the Philly part is really good, right? He picked early on Harper and Turner, which is totally viable, right? Totally viable to go against ADP there in order to build your stack. So he has a stack of 4 Phillies. Then he has, what does he have? He has 2 Twins and 3 Marlins. So he's 3 Twins. He's got Buxton. Sorry, I didn't see Buxton there. 3 Twins, 3 Marlins. So he has 10 correlated hitters, right? That's the number. It's a good number. And then 4 individual hitters. I probably would have gone 13 hitters on this roster. In fact, I'm sure I would have. Probably left off Casey. And then had 1 more pitcher given the fragility of the pitchers, but no objection. And the individual hitters are all guys who clearly have ceiling, somewhat riskier floors, but Torkelson, Goodman, Montgomery, Ozuna, all big power hitters who are capable of having multi-home run weeks and then putting up big weeks based on power. So we like that, right? That's a good roster. It's a well-correlated roster. If we go look, I'm just going to kind of quickly browse. This guy, right, has 2 Royals. 2 Royals. 2 Royals, 2 White Sox, if you count Miguel Vargas as a viable pick, I guess. 2 Guardians, 2 Reds, 2 Dodgers, and 3 Rangers. So lots of correlation on this roster. Some individual picks I'm not personally fond of, but whatever. The individual pick thing is very, very subjective. But the important part is he's got a lot of correlation on that roster. This roster has 2 Yankees, 3 Brewers, 3 Orioles, 4 Orioles. That's it, right? So 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I think that's right. Okay, let's see. This roster, 2 Orioles, Jazz, no other Yankees, no other Pirates, no other Red Sox, no 2 Mets, 2 Orioles, 2 Mets on this roster? And am I seeing this right? Is that it? That is 2 Orioles, 2 Mets, right? There's a lot, and 2 Blue Jays. There's a lot of rosters out there like this that have very little correlation. If you go through drafts and you look at other people's rosters, a lot of people are drafting like this, no, very, very little correlation. Or all the correlation comes super late. He has Noel V. Marti and Spencer Steer. Cool, they're both Reds, but that's not a high upside correlation pairing because neither of those guys is a high upside player. So cool that you have some correlation, but you want correlation with your early round picks too. He does have James Wood, Dylan Cruz, Dalen Lyle. I don't like 3 outfielders correlated necessarily because you only have 3 outfield spots. And, like, it's hard for them all to fit. Oh, he's got four, was it Commanders? Commanders? I think that's the team name. No, it's Nationals. Washington Commanders. Commanders is the football team. Good God. 4 Nationals. I'm not a fan of stacking 4 Nationals personally. I just don't think the offense is likely to be that good. He has 3 Pirates. Cool. I probably wouldn't do a Pirate stack without trying to reach for Connor Griffin because I just don't think the Pirates offense is going to be really good unless Griffin is really good. But that's me. He's got two Braves, Witt by himself. Yeah, okay. So he's got some correlation there. Cool. Here's another very lightly correlated roster. So 1 Ray, 1 Dodger, 2 Brewers with Sal Frelick and Turang, 1 Cub, 1 Red, 1 Royal. Yeah, he's got 2 Brewers. That's his only correlation. Like, that's a bad roster. And sorry, whoever that is. It doesn't mean you can't win, right? You can win with random picks. Like, sometimes you see guys win the DraftKings Millie Maker with 9 uncorrelated picks. Just get them all right. But it's way harder to do that way. Here's our Philly friend. Here we have, let's see, we have Vlad Guerrero as the only Blue Jay. We have Manny Machado as the only Padre. We have Willie Adames as the only Giant. Jeremy Pena is the only Astro. Ezekiel Tavar and Jordan Beck with a late run correlation. Will Smith, Max Muncy correlate with Kyle Tucker. Arizarena, only Mariner. Yeah, so really like no real correlation on this roster. He's got a couple late round picks that go with Tucker. Like, cool. But again, like, just late round pick correlation is really weak because you just don't have the same kind of ceiling on those guys. Like, it's fine to add some late round correlation, but it doesn't make up for having no early round correlation. Like, you need some early round correlation on your rosters. Let's see. That's this guy now. This guy has Cal Raleigh, Josh Naylor, and Julio. So this is the guy who drafted Cal Raleigh really early. So similarly to some other ones we saw, like, he drafted Julio at ADP and then intentionally reached a lot for Raleigh to pair him with Julio because you don't see a lot of that pairing, right? Just because of where their ADPs are, you're not going to see a ton of pairings of Julio and Raleigh. And he's got a bunch of Tigers, right? He has Riley Green, Kerry Carpenter, Gleyber Torres, who I'm not a big fan of, and then Kevin McGonigal, who's been tearing up spring training. We'll see. Kevin McGonigal is an interesting late round pick. Like, he could break camp with the team. He could be good. We'll see, right? I don't know, but we'll see. So the Seattle stack is good. I personally probably would have added like a late round, like a JP Crawford or a Dominic Canzone to this stack when you already have Seattle's 3 of their 4 biggest hitters. I probably would have added one of those other guys as a late round pick. I like the big Tiger stack. Like, this is what we don't see enough of is we see a lot of like pairings, 2 guys from one team. That's not stacking. That's a little bit of like correlation. Like, what you want is like stacks of 4 or 5 guys on a team. That's harder to do. And you just don't see many people doing that, right? Here, 2 Royals, right? 2 Yankees. Those are all fine. But like, I want bigger stacks. And I cannot lie. I like big stacks and I cannot lie. Carroll and Marte, right? Early. Nato, Trout, Soler. I kind of like that one. Like, Soler, like, if you get Nato and you get Trout, Soler or Nolan Shanuel are interesting guys to add to finish that stack. Those are interesting plays to finish that stack out with. This outfield is real fragile, given that you've got Corbin Carroll, who is starting the season hurt. You've got George Springer, who was awesome last season, but like really kind of out of nowhere. It's like, will he continue? Will he do it again? I have no idea. Mike Trout, who's been hurt all the time, and then Soler and Mullins, who are largely undrafted. So that outfield's real fragile. But if it works, it could be awesome, right? He went 8 pitchers because his pitching is, he started pitching fairly late. But actually, I mean, his pitching staff is overall solid, right? I really like Lodolo. I really like Woodruff. I really like Sheehan. I really like McClanahan. Detmers is a fine late pick. Outside of he's got the 2 Diamondbacks, and then he's got 3 Angels, and that's it for his correlation on his hitters, though. So that's, I'd like to see a little more correlation than that, ideally. this more traditional 7-7-6 build. So this guy has Ellie De La Cruz as his own, and Eugenio Suarez. See, this guy would have really benefited from getting like a TJ Friedel or a Sal Stewart or a Matt McLean. Like he would, with when you have the two Reds that are drafted inside the top 100, like I want to get more Reds on that roster. Riley is solo. Okamoto is solo. Weatherholt and Burleson were like a late round pairing. Oh, sorry, Riley's got Mike Yastrzemski. We'll see. Yastrzemski is probably still a platoon bat, and they might bring in someone externally to replace Profar. He's got his two Cubs there. See, I would have liked. Oh, he's got three. He's got Bush. Okay, so three Cubs. Sorry. So he's got 9 correlated hitters, one stack of 3 with the Cubs. It's not just the number of players though; it's also the draft capital. Like if I had there's only 2 Reds that go in the top 100. It's Ellie and Suarez, and if I had both of them on a roster, like I'm saying at that point, like in order for this roster to win, the Reds have to score a lot of runs because of where they're drafted. Like Ellie, especially Ellie, has to have a huge season. And if he has a huge season, that means the Reds offense is doing really well. And that means he's dragging guys like Sal Stewart or McLean or, Friedel or whoever else. Like someone else is getting dragged along. So you want to get, like, I really don't like having my early round picks be solo. I like building my stacks around early round picks because that's how you get the most ceiling. It's riskier, but you get a lot of ceiling that way. It's like this guy had Lindor and Bichette. You could have gone, if you go look at the Mets, like he could have considered adding something like Semien or Polanco or Vientos later. He has, let's see, he's got Olsen and Drake Baldwin. Fine. Excuse me. Chapman's by himself. He's got Story, and this Anthony pick was confusing. I thought it was like a strategic thing going somewhere, and he has picked him really early. And I guess he likes Anthony. But he has got Abreu. He got Abreu and Story to go with Anthony. He's got Christian Walker, Altuve, and Yordan. So overall, I like the correlation on this roster. Tyler O'Neill is a highly risky but upside pick as a last outfielder. So I kind of like that play. Yeah. Okay. So we are seeing in the industry a little more correlation than we used to, which is great. You're seeing people get a little more sophisticated at their drafting, building a little more correlation. It's like the early days of DFS when nobody correlated and people started doing it. And it's like, oh, wow, all of a sudden, people realize this is a good thing. Now we're seeing more correlation here, but we're still seeing a lot of like quote unquote light correlation. Like as I see it, like a lot of 2-man stacks, like a lot of 2-man stacking. Now all build rosters have 2-man stacks, right? I'd rather have correlation than not correlation, but I personally think you're better off having each roster try to build around one team and get 4 or 5 hitters from that team, because that's how you maximize your upside when you're right. And the question's always, what do you win when you win, right? Like, look, if you draft a lot of Nick Kurtz, cool. Nick Kurtz is drafted in every draft. And so like, if you're way over the field on him, neat, you're going to benefit. But like a lot of other people benefit too. The way you benefit really in a way that separates from the field is when you have a stack. So like Nick Kurtz, if Nick Kurtz hits, for example, let's say that I have let's say go back to my team. Where's my team? There's a lot of Rooker Soderstrom pairings out there because they're easy to pair because of where they fall ADP wise, right? There's a lot of that pairing. So if Rooker and Soderstrom have a big season, cool. That's good for me in my 12-man pod. That increases my chances of advancing out of my 12-man pod. That's great. But the problem is if they have big seasons, if the A's score a lot of runs, there's going to be a lot of Rooker Soderstrom pairings still alive in the tournament. And so at that point, I'm just treading water with them. How do I beat them? I can try to beat them through better random picks around them, which is possible, but hard, right? Like just picking random other guys around them and being like, I sure hope I get the right ones. That's riskier. It's easier to say if the A's really smash and have a huge offensive season, they're dragging other A's along with them. And so the way I will separate from the other smaller A's stacks is a bigger A's stack, right? Like that is how you separate from all the other guys that are similar in the second round after you make it out of the first round. I'm like, yeah, you have to make it out of the first round. You do. But if the A's hit and you have 5 A's, you're in a good position to make it out of the first round. If the A's smash and score a lot of runs. If the A's don't smash and score a lot of runs, well, your roster's dead anyway. Like this roster, if Rooker and Soderstrom and Butler fail, this roster is dead no matter what. If this was McNeil or if it was Jonathan Aranda, right? Like they're still dead. So like Jonathan Aranda does not have the upside to carry a roster with 3 dead early round outfielders on it. So, I know that in order for this roster to win, the A's have to be successful. And if the A's are successful, it's more likely they drag multiple players with them, and it's more likely it makes like guys like Jacob Wilson and McNeil fantasy viable. So I'm a big fan of big stacks, and I think that the field is starting to do more small correlations, more like 2-man stacking, which is great and better than nothing. And like I'm fine doing some small 2-man stacks with my later picks, Bregman and Horner, right? Rafaela and Durbin, fine late round, sort of stacking options. But I want my teams to have one primary stack, and you don't see teams get stacks of 4 or 5 guys very often. That is, I think, one of the big strategic edges that's available to us right now. Okay, that was long because of all the strategy stuff at the end. Thanks for listening. My voice is hoarse, so I'm going to stop, and I will see you next time.
1 week season.